Hi there, this is Jason Snaddon, the Abundance Activator, and here I am with the lovely Ella Gibbins. I met Ella back in about 2015, where I met her as the filmmaker for for one of my creation of a video that was being created for me, a massive introduction video for my website, and she produced this most beautiful creation. And so that was our introduction, and we've worked together on and off over since then, really, and we've always been in each other's field. So I really wanted to get Ella on here in conversation because she's not only is she a filmmaker, but she's the founder of the Atlas of Consciousness. Now I'm going to get her to explain what that is, but so she's an amazing creative being. I've probably one of the most creative people I know. Forever creating amazing things of beauty and communicating and experiences for people. And so I really wanted to get you here just to have a talk about that, your bit of your journey and what you're doing and how you can help others. So welcome, Ella.
Thank you. It's so amazing to be here. Thank you, Jason.
So the Atlas of Consciousness, what is that?
So the Atlas of Consciousness is a multimedia production company. And the sort of essence of it is that it's sharing a vision for a new world. So think podcasts, think books, think videos and talks that are really to get people with a new world perspective out into the world, and hence where Jason fits perfectly in. And yeah, it's basically sharing multimedia to help us to see a new perspective and to ground a new world. Beautiful.
And so a new world, what does that, you say new world, what does that mean for you? Or is that too big a question?
Oh no, I think I can do it. So actually a new world really starts from us and how we treat ourselves. And ultimately what ends up happening, or what ripples out, is that we end up with a more harmonious life because we treat ourselves better. And then that keeps going. And the new world is basically a planet Earth that is in so much more harmony as a result of each of its beings being in harmony with their individual selves.
Oh, I love that. It's so true, isn't it? How you are within is what you reflect back. So if you've got dis-ease, if you're out of alignment, well, then that's what you're going to attract in. And so the more that you're filling your own tank up, the more that you're looking after yourself, the more that you're being in joy and love and connection, the more that will be shown back to you. That's so true. And so how does that, so the multimedia company that you have founded, so what it's about getting the messages out around what people are creating from that perspective, and so that they're able to be seen and their different perspectives seen and heard. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would just say that anyone that I'm collaborating with to share their message is a world leader. They're a new world leader. They've got a perspective like your own, and a business that they're sharing that really is here to reshape and change the way we see things at a fundamental level. So absolutely, abundance activation fundamentally shifts who we are. And so everyone that I work with has something unique, and I see them all as industry leaders. Another person, Giselle, that is your close collaborator and my business coach from a few years ago, also has an incredible deep perspective that fundamentally changes the way we see our world. In us being able to change the way we see ourselves and our world, that's how our world changes. That's how we unravel what has been and create something brand new.
Beautiful. And so how do you unravel that from people? Do they come to you, or is it something that you work with them on to birth what their message? How does that take place?
Oh, it's been a beautiful process of I seem to find people wherever I go, or they seem to find me. I'm not looking anymore. I exactly how we connected, I, re- I just start stepping forward, and I do my best to tune into what feels like the next step. And
Hmm.
sometimes for me that is making a podcast. So
Hmm.
now I do a monthly podcast. So there are new listeners coming in and discovering me and the messages that way. But initially when I first met you, I sort of reached out to the people that I felt were most aligned to a higher vibration. And I keep doing that, and it's the action steps are very different. Sometimes I'm writing a project, sometimes at the moment I'm writing a feature film, which ultimately would reach millions of people. But in my practical daily life, it's people coming to the information or coming to the atlas through recommendations now, or through listening to the podcast, or they just know me through my networks. So yeah.
Beautiful. And it's just a classic example. When you're aligned with what's very purposeful, um, things just start showing up, don't they? The opportunities show up, the right people, the right places, the clients, it just flows. So, what's evident to me here is that you're very aligned with what you're bringing forth. And so we'll post the details of your podcast on with this post so people can perhaps tune in or subscribe to it. And so what has led you to this?
Oh, yes. That is a big question. Um, well, I might give a quick summary. I basically, from a very young age, had a very deep desire to create a non-violent world, because in many ways I experienced violence, and I saw violence around me in
Mm-hmm.
our greater world, and it was this drive in my heart that never stopped. And I found a passion for filmmaking, and I basically followed that all the way. But there was a point where I really achieved some filmmaking goals, which I was so proud of, and I'm really proud of my work. But I constantly had this feeling in my heart and in my body that I had, there was more. I just felt I wanted to share deeper. That's all I had, deeper stories. And I had worked with so many people that I got to a point where I realized they, even though there was some that was so aligned with my voice, I still felt like I had something very unique to say that wasn't being said. Um, Sort of coming to this amount of realization, I had a really surreal awakening experience where an ex-partner of mine offered me MDMA, and then it made me feel, I never taken anything like that, and it made me feel connected to all of the universe, and it just set off this chain of events that was surreal. I went through, I saw remarkable things. I saw that my thoughts create my reality. I went through a psychosis as I faced my harshest, scariest fears. I went through a really big healing process, and moved out to nature, and I did a lot of inner healing and body work. And as I was doing that, I suddenly started having all these intuitions and insights, new wisdoms, new perspectives that come to me to help me to navigate my healing process. And then in a dream, I had this message come to me. This is what you're creating. It's called the Atlas of Consciousness. And when I looked it up, it was free. So I immediately bought the URL. And since then, my life is an answer to all the questions I had as a child. If I felt alone and isolated and devastated and bullied as a kid, now the life that is replying to me that in harmony is, I live in my dream home, and I'm surrounded by people like you, a community of like-minded people who are equally desiring to shift the planet. And I'm proud of who I am. So it's this is my journey. I've come from a violent place, and I'm determined, to continue to transform that into harmony and that looks like so many different things, but ultimately appears around me like a dream life with a dream business and a dream home.
Wonderful. And so what I'm hearing is that you needed to find harmony within to create that harmony without. Is that what you've the journey that you've been on today?
That's bang on. So I believe that each one of us has one of those journeys where we have to find something within first, and we bring that to the world. And so I have been on a big journey of finding that. And I think that filmmaking was the first doorway, though I kind of knew that it would be, because it was my first big passion, and I was really pushing myself to go well in that passion and to make it my life. And it did. And it unlocked everything else that I now live.
Wow. And so if you're working with someone on their, to bring their light forth, to be seen, to get their offerings out in the world, how do you bring in that? So you're not just creating the creative outcome. Are you helping them with that alignment? Is that part of the process that you take people through, or how does it work?
I think it's really beautiful, because everyone that comes into my life that I work with or collaborated with, and there's absolutely no exception with you, is that someone to teach me something, and I'm there to support them too. So there's a mutual learning process. But I mean, for me, when someone arrives, I intuitively get the name of the video or the name of the project, the name of the feeling that they're conveying. What are they conveying to the world? And then basically I see it as just telling their story, doing documentary stories that show who they are and what they're doing, and just telling a great story, telling a really good 5-minute piece. Yeah,
which is what you did with which is what you created with my video piece. It was really a beautiful journey, and then we've created other things since then, but that one was particularly it was a real journey, wasn't it? Okay. And so and the podcast, is that are you building that audience? How does that, who's your audience? How are you reaching with that?
I really love it. It's very organic, which is really beautiful. I always just get the feeling of the name of the podcast, but because it's there to guide me. First time I'm just learning myself. For example, I got the name A New Home Come to Me, but this was 5 months before I moved into my dream house. And at the time I was living in a very harsh place. So I had to learn, and I was having intuitions and insights to learn to inhabit a dream house inside myself, a dream place of belonging.
Yeah.
And it's no different with the other podcasts. I receive podcast names. I have intuitions for who to reach out to do a podcast with. And then they share it on their Facebook page and their platforms. And it's been so organic. Because the people that come to it are the people that are on the platforms, they're already following those other leaders. And it gradually has grown, and people find it in amazing ways. I had my housemate's friend didn't realize I had a podcast, and she found it on iTunes by typing in the word inspiration. But she was looking for inspiration late at night, and then she suddenly found this podcast that I did, and was blown away, and didn't realize I was even doing a podcast, and then she just took down all these quotes and sent it to my housemate. So that's what I mean. That's so cool, that story. When I heard it, I was like, that's the universe right there. I couldn't have manufactured that if I tried. I think people are finding it in ways now that I'm excited to hear from, because they're so beautiful like that, it's very organic.
Beautiful. So if someone's got a business, or they've got an offering, or they're wanting to be seen, or they're wanting to get get something creative so that they're being seen, so that they have a presence, how do you support them with that?
So with the offerings that they're creating?
Yeah. So yeah, just so that, so I want, so anyone that's listening to this, so that if they are thinking about, well, what I want to get, a video created, or I want to be seen or be heard in a much more powerful way, what's your offerings there with that?
Yeah, we will basically, I tend to reach out to people to make podcasts, but in terms of my offerings, it's creating videos to
Right.
get their message out, and that's my specialty. So yeah, we would make a documentary story about them and who they are, and do it in a way that really is them. It honors their personality and what they're bringing forward. And I feel like every video we make, it's about the energy that's in it as well. It's about the energy that people receive when they watch it. So they're actually not just receiving your story, they're receiving a feeling of who you are and what you express in your energy body.
It's so true. It's so true. Now I'm thinking back to mine and how that was very much like that, So, oh wow. Well, what I will do is I will post the details of your podcast with this conversation, and the details of the Atlas of Consciousness, so people can find you there. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we close off this?
No, all good.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. What I just loved is that the nugget, I think, from this conversation is finding that inner peace, that inner peace to put out into the world so it can be shown back to you, or finding that in it, whatever it is that's lacking outside of you, you must find it within you. And I think that's a really powerful message from this conversation today. So thank you.
Thank you. I actually did just have one thing come in my head now. The process of inspiration. Did you want me to express any?
Do that. Yeah, that would be. It felt like there was something missing, and I just wasn't coming.
How is this? Yeah, the sense I got was it was about inspiration, or sharing with people how is inspiration coming to create all these things, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So how do you find the inspiration, or
how does it find you, and those things?
So you help people with that, tapping into their inspiration.
Well, I think that's the way that I live, and so I can bring that forth creatively. But yeah, that was the sense I got to talk about the process of inspiration and creativity, and and living from that place and receiving it just organically.
Yeah, that's so true, because when you are aligned, and when you are aligned to what you're wishing to bring forth, and you have that sense of peace, that calm, that sense of joy, then the inspiration comes, doesn't it? The intuition, the guidance, the information, the creativity comes. So for you to do what you do, you need to allow that full creative force within you. You must be that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's about choice as well, because I think that it's easy for people to say, I have no talent, I have no creativity. I've heard these ones so much, and I sell them to myself as well.
Yeah.
But every time I've chosen differently, and chosen that I am hugely creative, and chosen that there's a new way to see things, a new perspective, and that the creativity is coming and unfolding, then it does, and it does it so organically. And then aligning with relaxation, in a way, relaxing after because it's in those moments I've had, even just recently, where I was basking in a sunset, and I was just standing there being hugely grateful for where I was, that suddenly this, a whole new song appears in my head, or I'll have a whole new project, or I'll have this feeling come to me to start writing. And I think that's what I'm probably really, really good at. I'm really good at basking in my moment, just loving and being grateful for my life and for where I am. And I think that allows the space for new creativity to come in.
Beautiful. So how do you decide what to move forward with and what not? Because if you've got this constant flow of ideas and creativity running through you, how do you decide or discern what to leave behind and what to move forward with?
It's pretty clear to me as well, and I think I've cultivated it over many years that I feel it in my body as to what's most pressing. I'll just feel it very strongly that this is what I want to do now. Sometimes this is what I have to do now.
Right.
Yeah, I have to do this now. And I guess when I look back through all the projects that have been created, higher self really did organize it,
Yeah.
Even if I was confused on the ground level at times, it was all very organized and it all made sense. If I had to, I felt to create a project and get it out of me, then I'd find that 3 months later or whatever, a few years later, it would have relevance that it was created at that exact time it needed to be. And so I think I'm very in tune with my body and my heart, and I'm always making sure that my heart is the leaderboard as to what does my heart really want to, what do I really want to make now? What does my heart really want to make? And then I set aside the time to do that. But it's always a very strong feeling. And if it isn't very, very strong, I know that there's more to unfold. And that's happened in the past where I've had people reach out to me and it didn't feel quite there yet, but we sat on it. And then, there were lessons and there were learnings and there were changes, so that when we finally made the pieces, they were the strongest, fullest versions of themselves. So no force and no trying there. Just what does my heart say about this? Should I be doing this now? Do I feel like doing this now? And then that's what guides the process.
Beautiful. That's so true. Your heart is always guiding you, or when you're aligned to your heart, the truth resides in your heart, and when you come from that place, all the answers are there. It's just remembering to align and just, and everyone's going to receive it differently. They're either going to feel it, sense it, know it, see it. It's different for everybody, but you're so right. And when you are aligned, the inspiration, the ideas, the flow, the ease just comes forth. So you're a wonderful example of living that way. So so thank you for joining us, lovely, and really, some real nuggets in that conversation. So thank you. And as I said, I'll post you the details with this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
See you.